What is going on, guys? And I am back from a short hiatus from the channel. A few day break. Y'all probably haven't seen any content the last few days. Had a lot going on. My sister was in town, stuff like that, dealing with some other stuff. But we are back, ready to get after it on the grind, and here to break down some portal news with me today, on top of some other stuff. I am here with the host of Cornhusker Huddle, Brian Moore. Brian, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, and thank you very much for coming on. But yeah, go ahead and introduce people and tell them where they can find you.
Absolutely. If you can find me on X at Cornhusker Huddle with no E, because X has a limit on characters for usernames apparently. Same thing on YouTube except with the E, so Cornhusker Huddle. Facebook, I did just start a page there. It's just Cornhusker Huddle Podcast. TikTok is Cornhusker Huddle Podcast. Other than that, that's where you can find me. I'm super pumped to be on the show. I'm super pumped to finally start this journey of podcasting about Nebraska sports. Actually, I went to school for radio broadcasting and sports journalism for the purpose of being in Lincoln, talking sports radio, but YouTube wasn't really what it is. Podcasts weren't even a thing then. So now I can actually use what I went to school for the first time.
Absolutely. It's nice. It's nice that, there's a lot of mixed bag of Husker creator content too. Just a lot of different lanes and avenues. People specialize in different stuff. So, it's good that you have experience coming into here too. And we talked before about, some of the stuff you have planned coming up, dabbling a little bit of everything, but mainly your football Husker recruiting talk and stuff like that, which is kind of what we're going to dive into today. So if y'all do have an opportunity to go check out his stuff, like you said, over at the Cornhusker Huddle, we'll put that out in just a little bit too, and I'll probably drop it in the comments for y'all in just a little bit. Also, leave your comments in the comment section. We will be getting into those as we go through the show. So let's go ahead and just get started. I want to get your kind of overarching thoughts so far on Nebraska's portal class and how they've handled both sides of it versus the outgoing versus the incoming. Just your generalized thoughts on the portal so far.
Generally speaking, I think Nebraska has, held fair. I think they're maybe a little bit better in some areas. I think the defensive line took a huge hit, obviously. Butler, Williams, you're losing Ty and Nash because they're graduating. And then Terrence Knighton took he only took one, right? James Williams to Florida State.
Yeah.
He took Stephon Thompson too. I'm not a huge fan of our depth at defensive tackle, but they did a great job addressing the defensive end position. They completely overhauled the secondary, which that's not a surprise to me. It was a huge issue, especially that back end during the season. So it's not a surprise to me that they overhauled the secondary. And then actually, in one of my videos, I addressed the extremely odd, bizarre snap counts from the Pinstripe Bowl, where Banks and Jacory played 55 and 54 snaps, and 5 other receivers combined played 28. I thought that was super odd, and I was kind of hinting at, I think there's something happening here. But overall, I think they did a very solid job. There's a few areas we need to address still, though. I think that's going to come after spring.
Yep. And we'll get into those as well, kind of get into your thoughts and what we think still needs to be addressed in this team, because so far, I think On3 had us listed as a top 10 in terms of a team that fixed their glaring needs. Number 8 on that list of teams that have kind of overall fixed, the holes in their roster for the most part. So outside of their ranking in terms of how we're doing in the portal, at least they were kind to us in that regard. But, other places, I think 24/7 has us, number 6th in overall recruiting or transfer portal class. And then that puts us number 1 in the Big Ten. So depending on where you look, it's some really good things going on. But yeah, my thing on it's just they've been so intentional with the players they've gone after. It's not like they're going after guys just because they're the top players necessarily, like, coming in and getting, a punter, a long snapper right off rip and kind of addressing those needs. And a lot of people just kind of, in the beginning were just a little bit thrown off because it was a slow grind, right? But now I think people are starting to see the fruits of the labor pay off. It's not one of those transfer portal seasons where you can go in and bring, 30 some odd guys in because you have to worry about, the 105 scholarship limit, guys going out and stuff like that. So as we get more and more into it, the navigation of the transfer portal changes every year. And so each year it's going to be a little different. And this year is no exception to that. So it's hard to just gauge by like previous years because, even when they got guys on campus this year, it's not because every guy that they bring on campus, they're necessarily going to take, it's an interview for both sides as well. And so that's been one of the biggest things to kind of see is just how they, progress with some of these guys they want versus, the guys that go elsewhere. But I think for the most part, there's been a couple misses, but for the most part, some really big names landing in here. We're gonna go over our rankings of those in just a second. Now, in terms of Fongwei hopping in here, it's Indian Taco Tuesday. Well, I don't know what Indian Taco Tuesday is, but I'm down for tacos. I will say that. I'm always down for tacos. Appreciate you hopping in here, Fongwei. Now, going into just kind of the outgoing players, were there any surprises for you in terms of players leaving, or were you kind of expecting most of those?
In this day and age in college football, nothing surprises me. When a guy declares he's transferring, I take it as a grain of salt. I don't really overreact. I always just know Nebraska has a chance to bring someone in to fill it. So whenever someone leaves, I'm not like, oh gosh, here we go. Losing Dante Dowdell does stink, though, because I think Nebraska's depth at running back was pretty poor. Really, you just have Emma Johnson. You're putting a lot on Jamarian Parker coming in, a lot on Connor Booth coming in off of a knee injury that he had surgery on. Nebraska doesn't have that power back, so that's a little concerning for me. Can Quentin Ives maybe add 10, 15 pounds and be that guy? So I think Dante doesn't surprise me, but it hurts just because when you're inside the 5 or 10 yard line, you got a guy with 12 touchdowns and Dante Dowdell. Now he's off to Kentucky.
Yep. And it was one of those things where it's like, we have guys that you're expecting to potentially depart. And that is where I think the biggest surprise came from, because, Dante Dowdell, even though he wasn't, the perfect style of running back for what Dana Holgorsen wants to run, they fully expected to have him in the equation. And so when it blindsides the coaching staff, blindsides the fan base, it's a little bit harder to come back from that. When they brought Emmett back on, essentially they kind of exited the transfer portal running back market because they were putting offers in back then, the Louisiana Monroe running back. But as soon as Emmett came back on and they were like, hey, you're going to have a minimum of 50-50 in terms of the snap count, which he earned, they kind of exited out of that portal situation. And so it's interesting to see how, maybe they attack it in the second half of the portal. But yeah, as much as I love Jamarian Parker, I think he's going to be great, very young. He's going to be raw. He just doesn't have the experience. Quentin Ives, again, very raw as well. Got some playing time because of the injuries over the last couple seasons, but I think Quentin Ives is going to be very, very good. And he comes from that, New Jersey area, which is very physical style of player and running back. So Caleb says,
he's any unique running back too. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Without a doubt. No. Go ahead. If you want to elaborate on that.
I was saying he's just a very unique running back in the sense that how often do you see a running back outside of like Derrick Henry that's 6'3" or 215? To me, he either has to decide, do I want to be a pass catcher at running back, or do I want to add 15 pounds and I'm going to be that new hammer inside the goal line? Because his skill set is so unique. He's so versatile. I just don't know where he fits.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's probably where, Holgorsen's gonna come in and kind of probably sit down and discuss that with him. But, kind of similar to, Tommy Hill last year, putting on that 15, 20 pounds in the offseason. We know that if they do want to go that route and put the weight on, they can. And I feel like that's the path for him, because that's where we need him the most. We have the shifty guys who can get out in space and, do a little bit of the pass catching and stuff. But we have a lot of those guys, But yeah, if he wants to probably have more of a role on this team, that's probably where he's going to get his bread and butter at, for sure. And still, maintain some of that speed and what he has and be able to receive, a little bit. But it's going to be about fit for him, and his playing time is going to come off of that. But it'll be interesting to see if we see any offer news or anything come out in the second part of this transfer portal here. But any update on Shiaz Pete? Yes, Nebraska. It was down to Nebraska and Michigan last I heard. Those are the two teams remaining in the running for him. And I went over Shiaz Pete on my last live stream, and was a little bit concerned of not really just anything with him, just him following his other teammates over to I believe it was Vanderbilt.
There's a lot of mixed reporting on it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I've heard Kentucky's in on
Kentucky's pushing, as well. Pushing,
and
Michigan.
So with the Vanderbilt thing, the reason why I had Vanderbilt last week as the top team is because that's where, their quarterback came from. New Mexico State, played with him there, and then a lot of the teammates that he had over New Mexico followed him over there as well. So he's got a lot of teammates on that team that he potentially go play for, a former quarterback. So yeah, I'm not sure how legitimate that Michigan Nebraska only report is, because last I saw or heard, it's Kentucky's in on that too, and Vanderbilt's still in on that. So we'll see how that
his situation out. Very similar to the Washington State tackle. I can't even try and pronounce his name.
I know.
But it's going to be comfortability versus a chance to build something at Nebraska, essentially, because the Washington State tackle went to Wake Forest because his coaches were there. Left Washington State. Similar situation where he's got familiarity with the guys at Vanderbilt. Does he want to go be comfortable there, which is perfectly fine, or does he want to come build and protect for Dylan Raiola?
Yep, exactly. And I appreciate you hopping in here, Caleb. Appreciate, never mind me, Jason. I see y'all in here as well. It's just brushing over the offensive tackle position since we're already here. Elijah Pritchett, that was a guy that, a lot, much maligned about his statistics and how people felt about him at Alabama. But, he also was one of those guys that, had up and down in terms of snap count, was battling for competition there. Also had the whole coaching staff change. He entered the portal last year, went back to Bama. And, so I think that Elijah Pritchett's a guy who has a lot of potential, just because I don't know if he was necessarily in a place he wanted to be last year. And he was fighting it out for snaps with that. I think he was a freshman last year. I'm drawing a blank on his name. I had him written down for last week's show.
Caden Proctor?
No, it wasn't Proctor, because he battled out with Proctor, and then Proctor won that job. It was last year. His last name started with an F, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But there was a lot of things going on that even his coach had talked about could have been that he thought potentially were leading him to play inconsistent. And, it was a mixture of all those things on top. But it's just one of those things where he needs to have a little bit more consistency in terms of his technique. And also, Dana Holgorsen takes a lot of pressure off of these guys in terms of how he runs his offense. Jalen Miller was a guy who does hold on the ball. His time to throw is over 3 seconds. And so that also makes life harder on a lot of these, offensive linemen. But Elijah Pritchett was single-handedly the reason that they rattled off 21 unanswered against USF. They spotlighted him in this article specifically as when he came in, they rattled off. So he does have that potential there. But I thought the best combo to get would be him and Shiaz Pete. Shiaz Pete's a guy who can come in and play right away. And I think Elijah Pritchett's one of those guys who you can kind of look, see what you got, and kind of go from there. But definitely need to shore up that offensive tackle spot some more. Any thoughts on that at all?
On my scale, or how I graded him, I did like a C+ or a B-, because there's extremely high upside. He was a top 65, I think, recruit nationally for a reason. He was a borderline 5-star, depending on your service, for a reason. He has a unique set of skills that he just needs to put it all together. He can be your bookend right tackle and potentially your left. Depends on if we get Pete, depends on Gatula's development as well. He just needs to put it all together. He's inconsistent, like you said, but there's extremely high upside. That's why I have him as a potential like a B-.
Yeah, I got him as like a C right now, just kind of almost like an incomplete grade, just because, like you said, the upside's there, but we just don't quite know what we got from him until we get Raiola's hands on him. So, all right, let's go get into some of the comments. Should it be a rule that you can only transfer once? Yeah, this at some point they're going to have to regulate this a lot more than they are, and I think they know that. I think it's just a matter of
that's actually a red flag for one of our transfer commits right now.
What?
That he's transferred. This is his fourth school.
Oh, fourth school. Yeah.
For one of our guys.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of those things where you see one of those guys who has, had multiple transfers coming in. You feel a lot less confident in those guys sticking around with your program or even lasting through the transfer portal season fully. You know what I'm saying?
My only counter argument to that would be the coach that just took over at South Dakota State. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
I don't remember his name either.
But he's a Nebraska native, actually. He was hired as the defensive coordinator at New Mexico or New Mexico State for 6 days, and then he took the job at South Dakota State to be the head coach.
Interesting.
So that's my only counter argument is if a coach can keep doing that, why can't I? I'm not a fan of it, don't get me wrong.
Exactly. And I do think players get a bad rep because, they're kind of seen as I think more of the front and center, like these are kids, and I think that it's easier, like especially now that they're making money. I think that's the biggest thing is people like, oh, they're in it for the money, and it's as always, but like so are the coaches at the same time too. Like the coaches
No,
are going to
none of
go
them are
where the
doing
money,
it for free.
coaches are going to go where the money takes them as well. It is a little bit of a double-edged sword there with that. So what's going on, Jason? I appreciate you hopping in here, brother. Can Gunner and Teddy lock down left tackle on new Bama transfer locks down right tackle? Well, that'll be interesting because
I actually talked a lot about Teddy in one of my videos, but I'll let you go first.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. You can talk on it.
My concern with Teddy is he's 6'10", 6'11". He's 320 plus pounds. He's got 3 season-ending knee injuries in a row, or maybe 2 knee and 1 shoulder. He really hasn't played since his true freshman season when he came in and started against Michigan, the game where Adrian fumbled and lost us the game.
Oh, that was a brutal.
Yeah. So there's a reliability, there's a being able to stay healthy concern for me with a guy like Teddy. I think he is probably a rotational guy until he can prove he can stay healthy.
I am totally with you because I've preached the tall, overly tall offensive lineman thing a lot on my channel because it's, you don't see a lot of 6'10" guys in the NFL for a reason. They're more in that, depending on the position, guards will be, 6'4" to 6'6". Sometimes you'll have tackles in that 6'4" to 6'7" range, but it makes it a lot harder in terms of they have a higher center of gravity. And a lot of those guys, when you're trying to get your punch out on, a defensive lineman and you're pushing down, you're not going to get as much power. It's just the same thing with boxing. When you're punching down, you're not going to get as much power as if you can get it up in their chest and kind of, how you lift them up into those sleds, right? It's just a little bit different in terms of how they can get that drive on them. And then just a little bit, like I said, the center of gravity gets them off balance a little bit more. They have to be a lot better with their feet, but those lower extremity injuries are pretty gnarly because everything is low.
I've debated just like, not if he's thinking it, but like in my head, I'm like, does he consider medically retiring at some point? Because you got to think when he's 40 or 45 years old and he's still 6'11", his knees are going to have so many problems. And it's just a long-term health thing for me is my big concern with Teddy. Yeah.
And he's probably not thinking about it at that age as much as he probably should have or should. But I get it. As a competitor, he wants to just overcome those things. But that height is a problem, man. Like height can ruin careers. Yao Ming, he was 7'6", right? That dude could not stop getting foot injuries just because of how tall he was, So when you have that injury prone, stuff, there's probably a reason for it. And I just think he's a little too tall for offensive lineman. Like I said, you don't see a lot of them in the NFL at that size, if at all. What's up, Nebraska Rascal? Appreciate you hopping in here. We have to upgrade at line as much as I hate to say it. Yeah, without a doubt. We still need a couple more linemen for sure. Heard some disturbing news about that guy from Bama. Said he has legal troubles over knowingly giving. I'm not speculating on that. Yeah, I'm not going to touch on that. I'm going to get a lawsuit. But it'll be interesting to hear more come out on that. But yeah, allegedly, we'll throw that in there.
Yeah, for legal purposes.
Who is our center now?
Sam Sledge.
Sam Sledge is the only one that I could probably put there. Yeah. Unless they get somebody else.
Jenkins could slide back to center. That's where he started, but
he's versatile enough. But yeah, it'll be Sledge right now unless they add somebody else.
They brought in that Michigan guy, but I don't think he was a take from a financial perspective. I think he was winning like elite center money, and a guy had started like 5 games, and they're like, we're not paying you that much.
Yeah, and that's another thing too is Nebraska or Matt Rule is not going to overpay somebody. Like he's one of those that likes to find the diamond in the rough type. Like he will pay for you if you're at like the top of his list and stuff like that. But if he could feel like he can go out and get somebody who's a diamond in the rough value, lot less expensive, like he's going to only pay you premium money if you've had premium production. And like he's only done mindset. He's only done that with a couple of guys in this portal class for a reason. And that's why, a lot of people were kind of like, what are we doing in the portal? We're not locking down these big guys. Well, a lot of them are asking for a lot of money. And his patience pays off because a lot of these schools are just quick, like just throw money at him, You
see that happen with Missouri. They had a lot of portal exits from Missouri.
100%. Yep. There's no way we can be competitive at the highest level. We don't have elite O-line play. You're 100% correct. It's where everything starts. Good to see you guys. Appreciate you, Jason. His frame doesn't seem right to move everywhere. Yeah, exactly. Very hard being in a squatting position, generating force out of it. Yep. Yeah, it's just maybe he can play for Fred. Yeah. Let's switch over there. All right,
Drop
so let's
40 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll go out there and get some if you need some fouls, just put them out there just to beat up on some guys.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and dive into we got our top 5 portal additions, and I kind of have a couple of different caveats in mind. I wasn't sure if we're looking for immediately next season, so immediate ones. So I was gonna I have a little bit of a long-term or next season. So I kind of have a little bit of both. So okay. Let me know what you based yours off of, and then we'll roll with that.
Mine was immediate impact next season.
Cool. Gotcha.
For the most part.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and we'll take it away with your number 5.
My number 5, Andrew Marshall, cornerback from Idaho. Because he can help in punt and kick return. And I think he's going to probably be your starting corner opposite of Sayer Wright.
My number 5 is Andrew Marshall.
Oh my goodness. He's like 2 years of eligibility too. So he's also a long-term.
And by the way, we did not talk about this beforehand. But yeah, Andrew Marshall, just because of what he brings in that, like he's an actual, we've needed a kick return, return specialist for the longest time. We just have not had it. And
have you looked at his kick return numbers this last year?
Yes.
40 yards return is insane.
Yeah. He is one of the things that I like too is like that versatility.
Oh yeah.
Like just him, we have somebody who came in here who really wasn't, didn't command a lot of money. Like you said, it's 2 years of eligibility left, and we could use him at multiple positions with dual purpose. And I think that's one of the biggest things, in rules value meter is guys who can play multiple positions, do multiple things for him. That's where he gets his most, production out of those guys, and those are the guys he targets, dual sport athletes, that type of thing. So we got a super chat in here from Jason. Jason, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really, really appreciate y'all. So much as a like, a view really helps out, but I can't thank you enough for the donation. I appreciate it. Always appreciate your content, guys. Love catching your cast. Thank you, Jason. And yeah, like I said, I've been off this last week. My sister was in town, setting up some other stuff for my personal training that I'm starting back up too. So, but we're back after it 100% ready to get going after it. So thank you so much, man. And thank you for checking out the channel. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into your number 4.
I have Marquise, or is it Marquez Watson Trent, linebacker, Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I think it's Marquise. Or yeah, I think
100% sure.
Yeah, who knows? And I'm terrible at pronunciations. Makai Nelson's dad pronounced Makai Nelson's name wrong, and Makai's dad was in my chat. I'm like, my bad. Sorry about that.
I could go to their Georgia Southern website for the pronunciation, but I'm going with Marquez as my guess.
We'll rock with that. 5 gifted from Otto, man. Thank you so much, Otto. So if you do get a gifted sub from him, shout out to Otto. Thank him for that. 5 of y'all in here should get memberships after that, and memberships as I'm getting more content, more stuff coming up from y'all. But you should have a selection of emojis now that you can put in the chat as well and on the videos as well. So, all right, my number 4, believe it or not, Jack McAllister. I was thinking either between the long snapper or Jack, but just Jack McAllister is elite at what he does, and we really take some of the punting for granted. We don't get that pick 6 with Tommy Hill unless Bushini puts him in that situation. Where
I actually compared him a lot to Bushini, very similar statistically as well,
especially at dialing it in like the 20s, the 10s, the 5s, like pinning them deep, and that Tommy Hill got the pick 6. That's what got the attention, but that punt, you don't do it without that punt. So field position is extremely important, especially in the Big Ten. So Jack McAllister is my number 4. All right, who do you got at 3?
This is where I went long-term outlook. I went Williams Nawarni, DN from Missouri.
Yeah, almost
freak athlete.
Almost threw him in here as well. But this is where I have a combo of like short-term versus long-term. Two at my number 3. So short term, Nazea Hunter. I think Nazea is going to be a huge part of this offense, and he's a guy who can, he reminds me of what Isaiah Nair was supposed to be. He's a big body guy who can, occasionally go up and get jump balls, but he operates well, making people miss in space. And then kind of a more long-term outlook, if I was going to go wide receiver there, was Harley Gilmore. Harley Gilmore, can't say enough good about him. He came on a campus at Kentucky when he was 16 years old. And the coaches had nothing but good things to say about him. Even Kentucky fans couldn't say a bad word about him. They were so upset when he left, and that's a sign you're getting a good player, when the other fan base doesn't say a bad word about him either. So
we could do straight number 2 because I'm very similar. I had Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter as long-term and immediate. Very fitting.
Dane Key's my number 2 as well.
Dane Key, I look at him and Hunter too as a very similar version of Banks, but probably better. Bigger body, going to catch the balls over the middle, sideline throws. I read a really interesting stat that Dane Key on 45% of his catches and routes run this year at Kentucky was 10 to 19 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan completes, I think the number was like 60 to 70% of his throws between 10 and 19 yards. To me, it's like a match made in heaven. That's going to be an improved Jamal Banks.
Yeah, what I see Nazea and Dane Key as, I see Dane Key as kind of the Jamal Banks to Isaiah Hunter being the Isaiah Nair, and to what Isaiah Nair was kind of supposed to be again. Because Nazea can go up and get balls when you need him to, but he's really good at making people miss as well. And then Dane Key, I did a full breakdown on him. His route running is some of the most beautiful route running I've seen on film in a long time.
Yeah, like he gets in and out quick.
And it's excellent. Not only that, he does it against some of the elite of the elite, Jason, thank you so much for becoming a member, man. I appreciate everybody's contributions today, man. You are fantastic. Thank y'all so much for everything. And yeah, I can't thank y'all enough for rocking with the channel. Everybody in here in the chat. Thank y'all so much. So I appreciate every single contribution, like I said, but thank you, Jason. All right, let's go ahead and get to your number 1.
Kevin Galick. For obvious reasons. We need a long snapper that can snap the ball. I went on an absolute tirade about a week ago about long snapping and special teams play.
I was between at 4, Jack McAllister or the long snapper. I couldn't decide, but I'm going Dason McCullough at number 1. I think Dason McCullough is going to be an absolute monster on this defense. He can do a little bit of everything, but he is going to be absolutely incredible. I did a film review on him of all 22 film, and ESPN copyrighted it as one of their broadcasts, and I had to take it down, believe it or not. So I did a full film breakdown on Dason McCullough. It was literally all 22 broadcast, and ESPN claimed it as their footage, and YouTube doesn't protect its creators. Just a heads up. Because when you dispute it, it goes back to them so they can say approve or deny. So YouTube doesn't even look at it to see if it's, because it was obviously not, and it's obviously protected under fair use. And then I appealed, and the appeal also goes to them. YouTube doesn't get involved to look it over unless it goes to court. I can't fight ESPN.
I'm not going to go to court over ESPN.
Bro. And they copyright claimed 13 seconds of it. I'm like, get out of here. So I had to delete that, or else I had a copyright strike on it. It's wild. It's wild. I'm still upset about that. But Dason McCullough.
I can't believe I spaced McCullough on my list. I feel absolutely awful for him. I should have probably had him in place of Williams Nwaneri.
Yeah, I figured you probably would have had him probably like number 2, 3 probably. Dane Key felt like I thought Dane Key might be the one. I feel like he's most people's one, but Dason McCullough is going to be a monster too. It's pick your poison with those two at the top.
The thing with McCullough is he's so versatile. He's going to be middle linebacker, outside linebacker. He could be a rover. He could be a nickel. I mean, he's 6'5", 235. He can run, he can cover, and he can blitz. He just watches Oklahoma versus Alabama tape, and you're going to be mind blown at how bad Alabama blocked him and dealt with McCullough the whole game.
I did the one that I did on the film review was actually just three consecutive plays on a goal line stand against Texas. And in each one of the plays, he did something different. And one of those plays, he blitzed off the edge and was able to come around and get the running back after coming off of the edge. when they're on the 1 yard line. The other one, he was strung out wide, and he was able to kind of like, again, be patient and then shoot the gap between these two guys. He was actually trying to, like, a blocker was trying to get his extension out on him, but he actually got to the chest of the blocker first, drove him off, and use that little opportunity to slide through and make another tackle. And the last one was in coverage. It was Xavier Worthy out on a little quick slant, and it was a stacked wide receiver look out there, and you had the cornerback over the top, and Dason was a little bit closer to the line, and he was able to get out on that and tackle Xavier Worthy at the 1 yard line. That's crazy. Just his speed and his ranginess to be able to get over and make that play. Yeah, he's going to be really good. Like you said, his versatility, that's what's going to make him shine in this defense.
I don't know where they're going to put him, but they're going to put him somewhere.
Oh yeah. He'll be out there in a lot of different places for sure. Colorado culture is about 135 degrees off Nebraska, and the sure players from there make the jump to rules program. They hate the Huskers. Who are we talking about? The transfer class. Same concern with Teddy. Got you. There's a reason why special teams are called special. They can swing the momentum of a game with one play, and I think that's one of the biggest. I think people talk about the importance of special teams, right? But I still think we understate it. Again, just talking about how much 15 yards from your returner, consistently can completely change. How many Nebraska drives stall out 20, 15 yards short. Every little bit of that matters, and it all adds up. Every return versus every punt that you pin deep versus a touchback. Like, all of those add up as yards. You don't see them in the stat sheet as yards. Otherwise, I think people would understand a little bit more if it was quantified. But I think that's the one thing. It's not quantified in any data. So people focus on like the field goal numbers and stuff like that. But the punt return, it's kind of like we think about it, but we don't really think about it to that level. And that's why, getting Jack McAllister was huge, and getting the long snapper was absolutely huge. Just you can't win without special teams. We talk about how important the line is. Special teams are just as important as those. So
they costed Nebraska a handful of games too, and they costed you almost against Boston College too. It's just a simple long snap. I mean, the PAT that was blocked was a snap that rolled to the ground. On the blocked punt, it was a snap that looped all the way back to Buschini. If you just have a decent long snapper that does the bare minimum, we probably win 9 games.
100% agree. Yeah, and the kicker takes a lot of the flack for that, but I'm glad the operation was noticed a lot more this year and called out. And obviously Ed Foley now gone, still waiting to see who's going to be hired in his place. But Dylan is
Bill Bush.
It's not. No,
it's not going to be Bill Bush.
Dylan's in all that mobile. I've noticed all the NFL playoff QBs are mobile. Anyone know if he can become more mobile? I think anybody has the ability to be mobile. It's just, to what extent do you want him to be? Like, mobility can mean a number of things. Like, do you want him to be a guy who can move around in the pocket a little better, kind of like a Ben Roethlisberger, and be able to just kind of like get guys off from the pocket so he can throw more? Do you want him to be able to, run? Because if you want him to run options, that's probably not going to be his bread and butter. CJ Stroud is not a mobile quarterback. Like, he had 130 rushing yards his senior season in college, if that. And so I
actually kind of disagree that the playoff QBs are mobile outside of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I mean, Goff is not mobile. Mahomes isn't overly mobile. He just escapes really well. Matthew Stafford is not mobile, and Stroud is definitely not mobile. Russell Wilson's not mobile. Bo Nix is pretty mobile, though. I give Bo Nix that.
And
pocket awareness and understanding when to escape and then get what you can. You don't need to be Lamar. You can be a Mahomes that scrambles 3 or 4 times a game, gets 15 yards, but Mahomes ran like a 4.8 40 at the combine, if not worse.
Mahomes is no ath. Like, he runs when there's nobody around him for 10, 15 yards usually. But yeah, Stroud, he had a pretty good run up the middle in the last game, but he does not run ever. And that Ohio State game against Georgia, that's why it was so surprising that he was able to make that big run down the field to get them into field goal range, that they ended up missing. but it's just because nobody expected that. There's no QB spy because he had barely ran on the season. So yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like he can, like, I think Raiola's big enough and kind of, mobile enough to where he can move around the pocket and get guys off of him, but he's just not going to be able to outrun a lot of people.
Like the Ohio State game. I mean, half the reason we were in that game was because Dylan was running, but he was not running by people. He was just being very smart with when he chose to take off and run. I mean, outside of that like 50-yarder, most of his runs were like in the 6 to 7. I'm getting a scramble, first down, and that's it.
I think that's what he should do. Yeah, if it's not there, he'd make a quick decision, and do it sparingly. They should have a limit on how many times he does this per game. But yeah, when you see an opening, when you see 5-6 yards of green grass, go get it. I think he can be well in that, but we're not going to see a lot of QB design runs for him at all.
No, not at all.
And nor should we. Disney owns ESPN. Exactly. That's why they're both crap. It's sacrilegious to take players from Colorado. It's sacrilegious to take players from Colorado. If he can run like Mahomes, that's good enough. Exactly. That would be all we need from him, is to just be able to be mobile enough to get some yards when you have green grass and be able to kind of shake guys off in the pocket. I do think this year he was a little bit jumpy in the pocket after, Satterfield really wasn't giving him, guys to throw to. And so teams were pinning their ears back on him. I think he was a little bit jumpy in the pocket, and I think that led to him being sacked and putting himself in a lot more bad situations to be sacked. But I think when he's really flowing with the offense, kind of like against Boston College, that's when we see him be able to kind of, CJ Stroud described it as this. He's like, what he learned in the NFL by his after second week, because he came in 0-2. He got beat up by the Ravens in week 2. And he's like, I started to learn that you have to get to your spots. Like, there's spots you got to get to, and you got to rotate there before the defense does. And so he's like, when you step in the pocket, like when you see that pocket collapsing around, you see a little opening, you got to get up and out like immediately. Or when you see that pocket collapsing inward, you can't stay there. You got to get almost like a jump shooter. You got to rotate out to your spot. Otherwise, the defense will be waiting for you out there. And I think that's what happens when Raiola is a little bit more flowing and reading the field with the offense. He's able to kind of feel more comfortable just stepping into his spots, as opposed to just kind of dropping back and putting himself in a bad situation. And I think that's why we saw him be able to get a little bit more involved in the run game towards the end of the game there, and be able to make those decisions. Because, when he's flowing in the game, he's going to be thinking about those things. He's going to be able to just go out there and flow and make those plays. When he's thinking too much, he's not, because he's too worried about, like, I got to make this pass, and by that time it's too late for him to scramble. Pockets collapse around him, every opening's gone. I don't know if you agree with that.
I do. I think when you look back against USC, that was Holgerson's first game as the offensive coordinator, or the interim at the time. Did the offense go out and light up a scoreboard? No, but look at the operation as a whole. The ball was getting out in like 2 to 2.3 seconds, and that is where he is going to excel, is quick decisions, get the ball to somebody, let them go make a play. When you're having him sit back there and you're on these long routes that take time to
20 yards down the field. Yeah.
I mean, look what happened last night. Was that last night, the Vikings game, where Darnold's holding the ball for 4 seconds in the pocket? He's got so much time, and he's just getting sacked left and right. Just get the ball out quick. That's what this offense will be, and Dylan will thrive in it.
Yep. I don't know if you saw my video breaking down the USC game after the UCLA game, but the short part of the field, 0 to 9 yards, was targeted 12.6% of the time. Again, with Satterfield versus UCLA, it immediately went up to 31.2% in game 1 under Dana Holgerson. Like you said, it's just he was just getting the ball in his hands and getting him rhythm. Like, it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3 yards. Him seeing those balls completed to his receivers early and getting ahead of the sticks, that is important and pays dividends as the game goes along.
Just getting in a rhythm, and it helps everything.
100%. They need more design moving pockets. I think we'll get a little bit more of those potentially this season. I just don't think there was an offense that was consistent enough to really where we could throw a lot of design QB move in the pocket type of things out there, just because everything seemed so inconsistent. It was like we're trying to simplify everything to the point where by the end of the season, we were just trying to do as much simplistic thing as possible because it was almost overcomplicated and execution was terrible throughout the season.
Yeah,
So
think back to Dana's comments when he first came over. He's like, if I don't understand it, I'm throwing it out.
exactly.
If a 17-year head coach is coming in for Satterfield and saying, there's so much of your offense that doesn't make sense, I'm literally throwing it away, that's part of our problem. And he made it like 50, I think he said 50 plays per game is what they repped every week instead of 80.
Another thing about that too, also when Dana came on, and because the whole story behind Emmett Johnson and Satterfield not getting along was true. I heard the same story, but there's a lot of other details that were put out that I don't know if were true. But Dana Holgorsen came in immediately, and I was asking why Emmett's not getting more reps. Immediately, he's like, this guy needs to be the starter, like without question, without a doubt. And he quickly came in and noticed just stuff like that, and that just shows you how far away Satterfield was and how inept he was as an OC. That you have a guy who comes on campus and probably there for a practice or two and identifies the talent better than you can. And the fan base knew it was. The fan base knew Emmett should have been the starter.
Yeah, the last half of the rule, the first year rule, seemed like Emmett was starting to make some strides, and then the season starts, and you're like, "Where the hell is Emmett?" Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss on your show.
I'm out of there. I don't care.
I'll say, he just disappeared, but he showed more promise than anyone in that room.
Yep.
And he's just nowhere to be found.
Yep.
Milk carton.
He was supposed to start week 1, but Satterfield pulled the rug on him.
How much do you think has NIL played? Like, were they paying Dante more? Probably. Do they play him because he's making X and Emmett's making Y? Which would be
I don't think
dumb,
so.
but
so I can tell you from firsthand knowledge that there was some friction between Satterfield and Emmett for sure. There was some personal relationship problems, and I know we had that whole big story got put out and stuff like that. Like I said, some of those details that are more kind of in the mud, that type of stuff, like I'm going to stay out of those details, but there was friction between those two. And that was part of the reason why he never wanted to leave Nebraska. He ended up entering the portal, but then Dana Holgorsen is the reason he got him back. And Dana essentially promised him what he should have been promised this whole time. You're getting at least 50-50 of the snaps. And they upped his NIL a little bit, but it wasn't about money for him. It was about being
getting an opportunity.
He was working twice as hard and not getting rewarded for it. And no player is gonna like that. And that's why, that's why that whole thing went down. But yeah, so I think it was just more of the friction between Satterfield and Emmett leading to just kind of that weird kind of combination of playing time versus like we thought he was going to get. It seemed like he was the guy the whole offseason, that all of a sudden week 1, he's supposed to be the starter and he's not.
There are even reports going into fall camp, Dante was 4th on the depth chart, and then out of nowhere, like you said, week 1, he's starting.
Yep. It was a similar thing happened last year, early to start the season with where Emmett was on the depth chart too. But yeah, he was promised, told everything this coming into the season that he was going to be the guy, and the rug pulled right there at the start. And again, just nice to see him utilize. He's going to be a monster in this offense. Fong Wei said, "Yeah, you can cuss on here because leaving." All right, appreciate that, Fong Wei. Mr. Brightside, I appreciate you hopping in here, brother. What's going on? If y'all are in here right now, if you don't mind dropping a like on the video, really helping you out. Appreciate that. Satterfield's a moron. Yeah, they were, and now it makes sense why. I think he'll be fine with the tight ends. But
there was rumors that he got stripped of play calling duties when South Carolina went on that insane streak where they were scoring like 55 a game.
Yep.
I
don't know if that was true, but I heard that as well. Yeah. There was a lot of stories coming out for South Carolina fans, and a lot of them seem believable now.
Yeah.
There's that cognitive dissonance at first, because you're like, oh, of course y'all going to trash him, and we want to give him the benefit of the doubt coming over to Nebraska. And I was even one of the guys that's like, okay, like coming into this season, let's see how he does. Last year he dealt with, a lot of injuries, this, that, and the third. And I was like, he had a patchwork and offensive line together. Let's see how he does coming into this season. And I even was out on him this year.
Yeah, I was out pretty quickly. I'd say by probably that Northern Iowa game, I was like, we've got problems.
Yeah,
big problems.
Yeah, 100%. What's going on, Mike? Appreciate you hopping in here, brother. I think more than just EJ. Yes, there was more than just EJ that had issues with Sat. Absolutely, there was. Which was why I was surprised he's kind of still on the staff, but him and Rule go way back, so they were able to kind of mediate it as much as they could and get him away from some of the players that he had too much of an interaction with before that was kind of pushing them away. So wide receiver from Houston went to A&M. Yes, he did. He did that.
Jonah Wilson,
that fake insider Husker Twitter account was wrong on that.
Talking about Jonah Wilson.
Jonah Wilson, yeah.
When did that just pop?
I believe that was earlier today.
Oh, well, I've been at work, so I hadn't paid much attention.
Yeah, exactly.
Gosh, I was banking on getting Jonah Wilson, man.
It seemed like the wheels were in motion for it to happen. It kind of stinks, but yeah, he's going to the Aggies. They probably threw some money at him. Texas A&M got that. They got the old money over there. I'm from Texas, so I know firsthand. Late as always, what's up, MD Cosma? Hey, late is better than never showing up. So I appreciate you. How do you feel about Donovan Ryler's ability to develop? I love him. I think he's an excellent O-line coach. I think he's done a great job so far, even with dealing with all the injuries and all the youngsters that are on the squad this year. I think we have a golden coach at the O-line position, and we should not be concerned about that in the slightest bit. You agree with that?
Yeah, I'm super, super high on Donovan Ryler. Just every year, it seems like you said, the injuries too, but every year they're progressively getting better. Think back when he first came in, just think what your opinion was of Bryce Benhart.
Yeah.
And now you're looking at a guy, even if he is a late round pick, or even if he gets like an unrestricted free agent or whatever it is, he's still a guy that's going to have a shot in the NFL. And 3 years ago, he was like, get him out of here.
Yep.
So I'm a big fan of Raiola.
100% agree. Mike, Shiaz Pete. Yeah, we talked about him earlier. There were some reports that it's down to Nebraska and Michigan, but feels like Nebraska, Michigan, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt are probably still in the equation. So we'll see. We'll see how that comes down, but really not much info outside of some probably kind of, I couldn't verify that info about the Michigan-Nebraska thing, so I'm not going to really, I guess, put too much stock into that, but no really updates outside of that. So we'll wait and see with him and the special teams coach. Surprised who hasn't been hired already.
It'll trickle out this week. They've got the coaches convention for the next 3 days, so I imagine Rule's doing interviews.
I bet you that's probably Friday when that's over.
So started today. I think it's 3 days long. So
Friday. Yeah. So I think it'll come out Friday is what I was thinking,
or at least some type of rumors or something.
Some speculation. I can verify that Sat had play calling duty revoked. A key offensive player on that team as an agent, as a family member of mine. Interesting. Okay, appreciate you confirming that. All right, let's go ahead real quick and we'll go through just our quick grades. Wanted to get your grades on the transfer portal players that we got, and then we'll go through some of the questions again here. So,
okay.
All right, so we'll start with. And did you put a grade on all of them?
I did, except for McAllister, which is an A.
Yeah, of course. Let's start with Marcos Davila, quarterback.
Marcos Davila. Let me scroll down on my sheet here. I gave Davila a B- or a B because of some upside. I like his size, 6'3", 230. He still needs development, and he even said that, like, at Purdue, I was not getting developed at all.
Yep.
There is the prior connection to Dana Holgorsen, because he was about to flip from Purdue to Houston when Dana was there. Big arm. Not a very mobile guy, though, but he can move a little bit.
Yep. I gave it a B as well. The connection not only to Holgorsen at Houston, but he was recruited to Purdue by Graham Harrell, who was also coached by Dana Holgorsen. So he had kind of already knew a lot about Davila's skill set from Graham Harrell. Of course, then Graham Harrell left Purdue. And so, he kind of wanted to get back with somebody who knew him, knew his skill set, and he felt comfortable with. And that's, Dana Holgorsen. Like you said, he almost went over to Houston. He got offered over there at Houston when Holgorsen was there. So I'm going to go B. Yeah, just because of, first off, he's needed. Second off, it's a good fit. Good fit for sure. Hardly Gilmore.
Hardly Gilmore. I think I got a pretty good high grade on him. Yeah, I gave him B plus, A minus. Just the B plus is because he's so young still. He's like 17 years old going into his sophomore season. I think he's got an extremely high ceiling. I look at him as a bigger version and probably a more experienced version of Jalen Lloyd. I look at Jalen Lloyd as like a track star trying to play football. I look at Gilmore as a football player that's freaky fast. Yeah. He's 6'1". He's probably 190 pounds. Crafty route runners. One thing I got on his notes here: explosive, man beater, which was a big problem.
Yes.
For Nebraska. I think he's a guy that early on at Nebraska, he's probably going to be your guy that's running deep, just burning guys off the line.
Yep.
Very good vertical threat.
Yeah, I got him as an A minus. I just think that he can also be a guy who can come in and play and make an impact immediately, just because that's how good he is. And then he's got the connection, of course, with Kel Shorts. Shorts and his previous coaching staff talked about him at Kentucky, that he's the guy who's going to come out here and do whatever you ask of him. He was talking about a play, Kel Shorts talked about a play in practice where, he caught the ball on the sideline. He's like, most of the guys would have caught that toe tap and went out of bounds, but he cut the ball off field and got an extra 9 or 10 yards. Like, he's going to go out there. If you go and ask him to do 10 different things on 10 straight plays, he's going to do it. So, yeah, and just hard not to love his upside being as young as he is. Like I said, got on Kentucky's campus at 16 years old, reclassified. So A minus for me, and you said B plus, A minus. So Nazea Hunter.
A. Yeah, just an A. I don't want to give out A pluses.
Yeah.
Physical. I listed him as like the Banks replacement, but better. He's a little shorter than Banks. He's probably 6'2" or 6'3", but he's about 210, 215. The big thing for me is he has high-level production as a redshirt freshman from a Power 4 program. He had 40 catches, about 600 yards, 5 touchdowns at Cal last season. I think he'll be a day one starter, and then I really like his ability to catch the ball in traffic.
Yeah. I'm a B plus with Nazea Hunter. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, like kind of you talked about, he has soft hands, but he has the size to be able to go get 50-50 balls, contested catches, but also has the feet to make guys miss in space. And I think he just be utilized in a bunch of different ways in this offense. So I got Nazea Hunter as a B plus. Dane Key.
I went with A on Dane Key as well. Same thing, Nair replacement, but better. Good size, 6'3", 210. He has proven production at the SEC level. 1,800 yards, 14 touchdowns in his career. I would describe him as an elite route runner, which you talked about already.
Yeah.
His ability to catch the ball in traffic, get separation. I think Dane Key is going to be phenomenal in his 1 year at Nebraska.
Yep, I got Dane Key as an A as well. Route running tremendous. He is one of those guys that, if you line up over, he's going to understand. He understands every aspect. If you got outside shade, he knows how to work to the inside. If you got inside shade and he needs to go inside, he knows how to work you to the outside to cut in. Like, he just has this understanding of the game that puts him at that elite level. That's the reason he's going to be a day 1, day 2 NFL draft pick. Soft hands. He understands how to read the defense, finds a soft spot in zone coverages. Just not enough things to say about Dane Key. He is also, really good at drawing those pass interferences as well. We saw a lot of that last year, but in man coverage, sometimes they got to grab a hold of him. And against Tennessee, he had one crazy where he basically had him wrapped up and everything. He still made the catch with through the contact. So, Dane Key is going to be really, really good. All right, let's go Elijah Pritchett.
Elijah Pritchett I have as a C plus.
Yeah, I got him as a C. We talked about him earlier, just not quite sure what we're going to get with him exactly, but the potential is there. The upside's there. He has all the skills you need. It's just, can he focus, get them consistent, hone them in? That would be the key.
I think he probably starts this upcoming season, just because the depth at right tackle is not great.
I think it depends on if we get another tackle or not.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. You can swing Turner. He played right tackle when Ben Hart was struggling. Yeah. I'm not a fan of Turner at right tackle, but he's an option.
Yeah. So my hope was that we could get another tackle, and then that way Pritchett, we have an opportunity to, if he's not ready, at least develop him, bring him up a little bit, and then slide him in there and see how he does. He doesn't have to start immediately in the season, but if they feel they can work some stuff into him and then get him out there, midway through the season, that's what I'd like to see. But I'm hoping it's not to where he has to start just because they couldn't get another tackle. But if they actually want him to start, then we'll see. But I trust Raiola's judgment on that. Jalen George, the FCS, East Tennessee State.
I gave him a B-, and that's a lot because of his size. He's 6'2", 265. He's short for a true defensive end. He can't really go slide back to the second level and play jack. Yes. So he's really a true D end. He's a little short. The good thing, though, is that allows him to get leverage on a guy that's 6'6" at left tackle. But there's a few things that I just was concerned about with this 6'2". It's really short for a D end.
100%.
He doesn't have I watched probably 10 minutes of his highlights. He doesn't seem to have a great jump off the ball, a quick first step.
He's not very explosive. Yeah, he's not explosive off the lines. Yeah.
But he's good with his hands, so I think he'll be a depth piece. I don't think he's your day one starter by any stretch.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys who's going to come in and probably take some development. He'll be a rotational piece for sure. But yeah, I think they're going to work with him and try to kind of just refine his skill set a little bit more, get him ready, for Big Ten level football, and go from there. But I definitely see him as a rotational, type of guy. I got him as a B-. So Gabe Moore, Mississippi State D-line.
This one's hard for me. I gave Gabe a C. He's got good size for a defensive tackle, a nose tackle, but he has no production.
No, none.
He redshirted at Mississippi State. And then his second year, he sat out for a non-medical reason or another. But he didn't play, and that was under his own accord that he didn't play last year. So I'm not sure what happened.
I can't remember. I did a video on him, but I can't quite remember what the reason was.
Whatever happened, is that fixed? Hopefully, yes, for Nebraska's sake, because the defensive line, especially the interior, the depth is very, very minuscule.
Yeah.
But he's got good size. There's no production, so I gave him a C.
Yeah, I'm a C- for Gabe Moore just because, again, we have no idea what we got with him. I gave, Pritchett a little bit more of kind of that C grade just because, the high end potential. Gabe Moore, I don't know even what kind of potential he has really. I know he, like you said, good size, but just in terms of how I think he'll fit. And then, of course, offensive tackles, more position needs. So Gabe Moore is my one C- just because I'm not 100% sure how he's going to develop and stuff like that. It's a wait and see. But I think he's the one that I'm least excited about out of all the portal acquisitions.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. So Williams-Wonnery.
I gave Williams a B. I was back and forth between a B, B-. The reason why I have a B is he didn't do anything at Missouri, which is not uncommon, I guess, for a defensive lineman. I think he has an incredibly high upside, but there's just no production. There's just rankings and there's high school film. He's a 5-star edge at high school. He was a top edge in the portal right now. He's got that big NFL frame. He's 6'6", 265. He just needs to develop. High ceiling, very high floor, but we just don't know what we have right now.
I'm going to say B+. And for Williams, I know with his time at Missouri, I feel like, and from what I've heard from Missouri fans, there was just this, they talk about a lack of effort for him, but I just think there was this disconnect between him and the staff. And, that doesn't excuse a lack of effort, but I don't think that he was fully happy there and happy with that staff. He fully had the intention, or they had the intention of using him a lot more in this upcoming season, having him a big part of that, that defensive line. But with him, he's still raw, still very raw. Mm-hmm. And so, this guy's got A+ potential, as we all know, but, he's still, got 4 seasons to play. I don't think they burned his red shirt. So 4 seasons to play. And so he's as good as getting a recruit in here. And so, I think
the reason why I'm not overly worried about no production at Missouri is 2 things. One is Missouri has an NIL law that Nebraska has, but the difference is Missouri pumps out 20 or 30 Power 5 or Power 4 players every year.
And he barely got started
making. Yeah, but you can make NIL in high school if you're in Missouri and committed to play a sport at a local college.
Yep.
So part of that is he's earning money while he's in high school. And the other thing is his high school coach is on Nebraska staff, Jamar Mosey. And Jamar Mosey's not going to bring a guy in that has character issues, that has effort problems.
Nope.
So that's why I'm not worried about no production and not playing right away. But it's just a little concerning that he couldn't get on the field at Missouri.
Yeah. And that was the one to me. Was just like, they played him outside of like, I think 1 or 2 of the games he didn't have any more than 10 snaps in the other 2 that he actually saw time in. And again, I'm not 100% sure if that was, due to lack of effort or if they didn't see him as, I know they had some dudes on that D line, but yeah, I think kind of with Jamar Mosey being, that's why I couldn't quite put him into A. I think with Jamar Mosey here, and I did a full video on Jamar Mosey, just he is like, when it comes to character, or even if he has a kid that brings in a kid that is lazy or has bad character, that is the one coach that's going to be able to turn that around. Because some of the stories that, there were in the comment section from people who know Jamar Mosey or from that area, and just, he won the NAIA Coach of Character Award in 2024. Like he is a great coach and a great role model. And I think he's going to bring the best out of Williams Winery for sure.
I'm from Kansas City, so everyone that follows high school football knows Mosey.
Yeah. All too well.
There's a lot of ties to Mosey with these recruits. We got Williams Nawarni, Dasan McCullough is from Kansas City. His dad coached on the Chiefs with Dawson Merritt's father and our new defensive line coach. So they're all familiar with Jamar Mosey. He's got such a huge impact in Kansas City. That's why we're just rating Kansas City right now.
We need to. There's a lot of, that was we had a foothold in that, that state a long time ago. And there's a lot of, sneaky talent in that Kansas City area as well. So, all right. And so we just did Williams, Dasan McCullough.
I have him as an A. I wanted to put him at an A+. He came off an injury last year. I'm assuming he's healthy because he played the last 4 or 5 games of the year. For me, it's just, where does he fit on the defense? He's a freak athlete. There's how many guys that are 6'5", 235 pounds that can run, that can cover, that can blitz, that can tackle, that can do everything that you need. Nebraska luckily has 2 of them on their roster with Javin Wright coming back. So
that was huge as well.
McCall is going to be an absolute freak.
Yeah,
I just can't imagine like looking as a quarterback and you have like Javin and McCullough in the lineup at the same time. Can you imagine just knowing 2 guys? At Shavers, at McGee. There's just so much talent with McCullough. He's going to be a freak.
Gnarly. Yeah. Dasan McCullough is my closest thing to an A+ you can get. Got him as an A. Kind of like you said, just he is a do-it-all versatile guy. When I was watching his film, I was in love. Like it's just, I'm a defensive guy. Like I really like breaking down and watching defense, and just the thought of, John Butler wants to run this really more aggressive downhill style of defense, and just the thought of Dasan McCullough being a guy who you not only can attack, with that downhill style, but just having a guy at that size, that's rangy, that you can pull back to and just be able to kind of, drop him into coverage. That it just makes him so much more valuable, because he can be on the field every play if you need him to, just depending on where you put him. So to me, Dasan McCullough, by far, it's going to be hard to outdo him as my favorite acquirement in this portal. And that's a lot saying with how much I love Dane Key. But like I said, I'm a defensive minded guy. So it's Dasan McCullough for me as my top, and about as close as you can get to a A+. So Marquez Washington Trent.
I gave him an A-. The reason why he's a little lower than an A would be he's just a little short. He's 5'10", 5'11", but when you have 358 career tackles, you're a 3-time all-conference selection. 2 of those were first team. You're a Sun Belt Player of the Year in 2024. I mean, you can't ask much more for a guy that what you're getting from Watson Trent. I think he'll be an absolute steal for Nebraska. He'll be probably your run fit at linebacker, and then McCullough and Shavers maybe take over when like it's like a 3rd and 10, or like an obvious passing situation.
Yeah, I got him as a B. The one reason why is like, you talked about that run stopping, that, he is, he's a guy who can get after the quarterback occasionally, but he just that downhill run stopping guy, he's very stocky, very strong, and big and knows how to use his size and his limitations in the coverage. Though he is a guy who can probably play that curl flat. He's going to have to be guarding the running backs out of the backfield, so he's going to have to play those underneath zones. He really isn't doesn't have that height to get back in the zones over the top or anything like that. So perfect fit for the runs, run plays and kind of those flat routes and stuff like that. You can get him out on those. He does have that ability to go, sideline to sideline to make tackles. Very good tackler. So I got him at a B just because of the little limitation in terms of his coverage ability. So, but everything else he does that. It's one of those guys that like he knows his strengths and he does those at an elite level. And you can't.
If I were to compare him, it'd be like, just to go off of last year's roster, it'd be like Mekhi Bayer.
I compared him
to maybe a little bit smaller.
I kind of compared him a little bit to like a Luke Reimer in one of my videos, because like they're both that effort, like they can get rangy. They're not going to kill you with athleticism, but they're going to be able to get downhill and stop you in the run game. They're like, those two guys are very similar in their gritty ways that they play too, in my opinion. So, but yeah, that's a great comparison right there. All right, let's go Jameer Khan from Southern Illinois.
I gave Jameer a C+. I think he still needs some development. I think he could be really good in a year or two. He has technically 3 years because he has a red shirt available because he played and started for Southern Illinois his freshman year and sophomore year. So he might be like a guy that comes in at slot corner. I don't think he's going to be like a guy on an island by himself. But he's got really good production. He had 9 pass breakups. Nebraska flipped him from James Madison originally as well. I believe that's who it was.
I think so.
He's a little undersized in the sense that he has good height. He's 6 foot, but he's like 170 pounds. Yeah. Very skinny. Needs to add a little weight. And that's why I say maybe comes in at like slot corner against a shorter, smaller receiver.
Yep.
But I think he's a willing tackler. He's got good hands. He just needs to develop a little bit. That's 100%. another Jamar Mosey tie too. Yep.
I got him as C+. And a lot of the things you mentioned, just the size, he needs to get that physicality, in the Big Ten. He's going to have that size to get a little bit more physicality. Like you said, I think he can line up on some slot receivers, some of those other guys. For 6 foot, he does have some pretty good length. So I do like that aspect of it. But yeah, just needs a lot of development and we need to see how he is, at the Big Ten level when he's going to get some of these physical receivers, because he is a guy that does like to get his hands into people, jam them and stuff like that. But I don't know how well he's going to be able to do that in the Big Ten. So we'll see how that translates over. But yeah, definitely going to need to put about 15, 20 pounds on for sure. All right. Marquise Groves Killebrew, the most recent, I believe. He was the most recent.
Yep. This is my red flag player. I gave him a C+. I think he could be a guy that is very legit. He could be a shutdown corner. He could also be a total bust. To me, when you have 4 schools in 4 years, we're talking major red flags. You started at A&M, you went to Louisville, they didn't play you, so you went to Arizona. I think he
played you a little bit. Yeah, he played I think 10 games over there and had like 20 some odd tackles, something like that.
Yeah, so there's a concern there. I think he's a depth piece because I think they're eventually moving Marquise Buford and Hartzog back to safety. I think that's why they went and got Killebrew. He's not a very big guy he's a similar thing as Khan, where he's got some decent size in terms of his height. He's 6'1", but he's 170 pounds. He's got to put on some weight. And I think he's only got 1 or 2 years left.
Yeah. He's 6 foot 185.
Yeah. He's a little bigger than I thought. It's not terrible.
Yeah. I agree. C+ for all the reasons you said. He is one of the, he's kind of there in the game more with me, where it's just like, I think, Groves Killebrew is a little bit more exciting to me than Gabe Moore, just because at cornerback position, you can't have enough cornerbacks, just considering the spot we were in last year with just the depth and stuff like that. We do have Bly Hill as well. A lot of people forget about him, but so I do think it's good that we do have these options, but I probably, as far as the DBs we've got, he's probably my least favorite of them. Yeah. But they kind of saw, potential of what he could be. He did have a little bit of success at Arizona last year, so that was good to see. But
He's just got to put it together.
Jury's still up. Jury's still up for sure. Just one of those unknowns. I'm not saying he's going to be bad, but like you said, it's just the lot of movement from school to school. Let's see if something here that can make him stick and be able to get out on the field and kind of make a name for himself. So, all right, Andrew Marshall. We both had him. I think at 5 on our top 5.
I love Andrew Marshall.
Yeah.
Watch the Oregon game. He did okay in the Oregon game.
Yeah.
Considering who he's going against, though, I think he's a true sophomore, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
He had 9 targets. He gave up, I think, 5 catches and a touchdown. Not great, but he was going and battling on an island almost the entire game by himself.
100%.
And he's going up against a top 10, maybe top 15 receiver in college football. I like his versatility.
Going against Tez?
Yeah.
Tez Johnson? Yeah, I would say top 15 for sure.
So did he win more than he lost? No, but
that's Tez Johnson.
When you're on, exactly. And you're on an island the entire time, and you have at Idaho, you don't have the skill around you like you would at Nebraska, or you would at, not saying Nebraska's Oregon, but Oregon has a lot more talent than Idaho does.
Correct. It's a unit. And you don't have that unit around you. It puts you a little bit more out there on an island because you're having to worry about multiple things going on because the guy to your right doesn't necessarily have your back, Yeah.
I like his versatility. He'll be kick and punt return guy. I think one or the other.
Yep.
I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but
I would guess if he's playing cornerback and if he's out there on the field, I think it would be one or the other.
Yeah.
I do think that. If he's not seeing the field as much, I think he might do both.
Yeah. I think he's a high-level athlete, proven production, even though it's at Idaho. You're talking 72 tackles and 8 pass breakups. He's a lockdown man-to-man guy. He's really good in zone coverage too, but he's really good in man-to-man coverage. And the bonus, he was coached by Josh Mitchell in high school, former Husker.
That's a nice little nugget there.
Yeah.
I kind of echo a lot of the same things.
Did I say his grade? A, right?
Oh, I don't actually don't think you think so. I don't think you did, unless I just missed it. But
I gave him an A. I love
that's a good grade.
Andrew Marshall.
That's a good one.
I think I'm very high on Andrew Marshall.
I'm gonna go B, and I was probably B plus. I'm right in that range. I couldn't decide out of the two, but there was a reason Rule wanted him immediately. This was one of the guys Rule went after first and the hardest, and there's a reason for that. He sees, the value that he has and being that versatile DB, punt returner, kick returner, so, and I think he also sees him because I don't think he would have went after him as hard if he didn't think he could also be a potential key part of this defense. And so, I really trust Rule's eye when it comes to that, and a guy that he wants as bad as he wanted Andrew Marshall. And he went out and got him. And so, a lot of things you said true. The man coverage stuff, 100% correct there. But I think it's the dual purpose that really gets me excited.
He definitely needs some more reps against higher level competition.
Yeah,
I really like his upside. And when I look at his portal offers coming out of high school or out of college, I mean, he was down in Nebraska and Miami.
Yep,
pretty much. Miami has a war chest of NIL, just like Nebraska has. So.
100%.
He's also pretty good size. That's one thing I notice a lot about these guys that Butler's been bringing in is look at the size of the corners and the safeties. They're all that 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" range. They're all really big.
Yep. And then you I think Bly Hill's the 163 guy, but he's more of that slimmer. But he's. I mean, this defense is going to be able to come down, and if he puts 10 to 15 pounds on some of these guys, they're going to be 6 foot, 6'1", 200, 205. These guys are going to be able to play downhill and stop the run. And that's exciting because now you got a whole unit with that, because that Boston College game played downhill really aggressive in that game. So it's exciting to see kind of what he's going to do with a lot of these DBs and just kind of his new system as well. And then the defensive back coach as well. He coaches his defensive backs to be very aggressive downhill as well. So I did a video and kind of breaking down how he, his style of coaching and stuff like that as well. So Justin Rhett, defensive back for Georgia.
I gave Justin a B. Depending on your recruiting service, he's either a high 3 or a low to mid grade 4-star. Coming over from Georgia, I like him as a safety though, because I think he doesn't have a very high end top end speed. I don't think he's
got that safety size to him.
Yeah, he's like 6'2" ish, maybe 6'1". He's 200.
He's over 200. Yeah, 200 or 200 plus, some of that.
Yeah, so I think he lacks the top end speed, but he's really like quick. He's twitchy. He just is a good fit for me. I gave him a B, but I'm really high on his potential. I think he's a redshirt freshman, or maybe
I think he's I think he was a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, so he still needs some time, but once he puts it together, I think you're going to have a really, really good safety.
Yeah, freshman. Yeah. I agree. I had it as B as well. Mainly, like, I love his size. I do love his size because, we do have a lot of those guys in the, 180, 185 range, but now we have this guy who's, a little bit more stocky, like you said, doesn't have the craziest top end speed, but he can operate in a box very well. And, he can stop Gunner. Sorry, my dog's whining if y'all can hear that. But yeah, I think he, I think just with the style of defense that I was just talking about that he wants to play, I think he'll have a role in this defense. But he's one of those guys that will kind of be developing, and we'll probably see him a little bit, in the rotation next year. But I think the future is really, really bright with Justin Rhett for sure. Jack McAllister, I think I know our grade on him.
Yeah, guy that can punt it. He gets an A. I think his average for his career was like 43 yards. That's not.
Yeah,
like his net was like 34, but I don't like to put a ton of stock in the net because isn't that like the return yards allowed?
Yeah, return yards, and if you kick a touchback.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you got a crappy coverage unit, but you could have a 48-yard average with a 32 net.
I think he was one of the top guys in terms of pinning people inside.
He struggled in their bowl game, I saw, but I'm not going to put stock into one game. I got 4 years of data to go off of.
Yeah, the numbers that I saw, just kind of the high level overview, they all seem very good from his last season. Yeah, for sure. Jumping Jack McAllister, he's already got a nickname too. So, and then Kevin Gallick, I probably both A on that too.
Yeah, if I could give an A+ just for the sheer execution, because he was an FCS All-American, I would give it to Kevin. Nebraska desperately needed a long snapper. They went and got an All-American in the FCS rank, so I'm pumped about him.
Absolutely. All right, well, those are our grades. I'm going to start running through the comments here. What are the rules of the off-season practice in regards to any specific rules? Just trying to see.
You cannot physically be coaching, but you can be in the vicinity or in the coach's office that oversee the practice field. It's usually led by strength and conditioning and player.
They talk about the coach. Yeah, what the coaches can do with them.
That's what I imagine.
Yeah, winter mat drills too is very interesting because they do a lot of the players coaching there as well.
I think you get X amount of hours per week for the mat drill stuff, but
they do, because they can be more hands on there. But a lot of that too, they use that, like Matt Rule talked about last year. They see who steps up as leaders and natural leaders and those things, and those guys that step up and kind of take some of them under the wing or start working with them or help pulling them along. They also have that setup where they get points for going to different sporting events. It's like, who does the stuff that they don't want to do in those things. But I think, is that the first time where the coaches get the hours with them? Yeah,
mat drills start on the 21st, I think.
Yeah, so
maybe because enrollment starts on the 20th.
20th, yep. Let's see. Do we keep Pritchett at right tackle where he's used to, or going to develop at left tackle? I think that's up in the air. I think it's just going to be a matter of, again, what we do at tackle, the rest of the portal. She has Pete.
It depends on Pete.
Yeah, I think that'll change some things, because if she has Pete comes in, I think he's starting. He's got to start. So yeah,
I'm not personally worried too much if we're left with Gunnar Katula.
I'm not either.
He had a 62 grade for PFF, which is
he got better.
Average.
He got better as the season went along, from what I've seen on film too, because they're him and Justin Evans had some struggles there.
And keep in mind, he's a redshirt freshman, which is a problem Nebraska's had forever, where they keep thrusting these young guys into starting reps.
I did a breakdown on that too, where it's to me, outside of quarterback, and even maybe just as much a quarterback, the hardest position to come in and start as a true freshman is offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you recruit as an offensive line, there are things you have just no expectation of having developed yet, because they look for these, certain details, your overall strength, footwork, balance, those type of things, that you have all those things. But in terms of refining you as an offensive lineman and those type of details, those are typically had when you get to the collegiate level and you start working to college coaches. That's kind of the rule of thumb there. So it is arguably the hardest position to be able to come in. I did a breakdown of the last, like, I did 2021, 2022, 2023, and just kind of those top 50 and how many of those had production as a true freshman or even sophomore. And it was a very low percentage. And if they did, it was usually due to injuries at the offensive line position. So yeah.
If you want a good, like, just a perspective on it, like, remember Jordan Seaton from Colorado? How awful he was weeks 1 through like 6.
He was a liability.
And he was the number 1 ranked left tackle in the entire recruiting class. He was terrible. Granted, he got better as the year went on, but it's just proof that even the best guy in high school, or the best guy in high school, still has issues and a lot to learn.
100%. Exactly. Agreed. Because that is a good point, because he was a absolute liability out there.
Yeah. Ty Robinson ate him alive.
Oh, it was nasty. Yeah. And that was probably the most funny part of it, is just because Jordan Seaton was that guy that they all off season were just like, we got a 5-star, we got a 5-star. He will be good though.
Oh yeah, he will be.
Yeah, he got better as the season went along, but it was a struggle for him for sure. I find it interesting that Reckless hasn't re-signed with Tennessee. Maybe it's him. If we want to get really weird, would NIL sponsor be influencing the position coaches for playing time? I don't think so. Not here. NIL sponsor be influencing. Are you talking about like the NIL money? That I'm not like.
I think it's talking about like if you have like a sponsor, say it's like
a company sponsor,
like FNBL, like First National Bank of Nebraska or whatever it is, that has their name on the stadium, right?
Yeah.
Would they be meddling and saying, look, we're paying, $500,000 for this dude to be on the field and he's not playing?
I don't think so, because that's completely separate from because the staff is like, I don't care if you're paying a $500,000. That's like, because they don't have a contractual obligation with the coaches. So yeah,
I think it would be a problem for a player. Like, I'm making this money and I'm not playing, and then if I'm real, I go, I don't give a shit. You're not.
Yeah, that's on them. Like, you're getting paid money to see the field. You aren't playing well enough to see the field. That sounds like a you problem. But Rule's got to look out for his ass at the end of the day. He's got to win, so he's going to put the best players out there, no matter what. What's going on, Nebraska boy? Appreciate you hopping in here. Good evening. Is he or Hunter a Trey Palmer type receiver that can burn the secondary?
Dane Key or Hunter?
Dane Key isn't.
I don't think Hunter is either.
Hunter
ran like a 4.27 40.
It was crazy fast. I would say the closest thing to that is probably Hardly Gilmore.
Yeah,
for sure.
Hardly. I mean, Jacory is not like an electrically fast guy. Gilmore's probably going to be your fastest receiver, right?
Yeah, he's going to be your burner for sure. A lot of these kids have big money. Their camp set up for them to develop. I know in the big 8 days, there were restrictions of team practice. Assume there's some or all of the same restrictions. They definitely have camps out there. And a lot of the players do player-led practices too.
Dylan did it like crazy when he first arrived last January. He was all over the place.
So a lot of people will do those player-led practices and stuff like that too. So not a ton of restrictions on what the players can do themselves. Hard to restrict that. What's going on, Cliff? Appreciate you hopping in here, sir. Thank you. Thank you for saying, hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. First Simple, Nebraska and Michigan are the schools for Pete. Okay. Was that officially reported by SIP? Kentucky?
Actually, Steve Wilfong reported it 2 days ago.
Oh, so, okay.
And
I wasn't sure.
Pete Nakos.
I wasn't sure if any of the Husker guys had mentioned it. So I guess Sipple did too.
Some guys on Inside Nebraska did. Yeah. They reported Kentucky and Vanderbilt, though. There's such a mix of what's going on. And I think part of it might be an agent, but that's speculation.
Leaking some stuff. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But yeah, I would say all of them, just be ready for any of them, because it's kind of like when Dane Key was down to 2 SEC schools, Georgia and was it Ole Miss?
Yeah, that was what Pete Nakos reported.
And then all of a sudden, Nebraska is back in, like he's come to visit Nebraska. So anyone found Butler or Barber yet? No, I think you need to get on that though.
Yeah, Holgerson one too. They both have that like balding on the top, long mullet in the back.
Just got to let it go.
There's a barbershop in the dang locker room now.
Yeah.
Let's go see one of them guys.
I think Holgerson's got to keep that aura, dude. He can't.
It's an aura thing, and I'm 100% a fan.
Agreed, 100%. You can't mess with Holgerson too much. Just let him do his thing. Whatever he's doing is working. Nebraska, Michigan school. Oh wait, I already saw that. Chelsea Jonte Cook got dismissed from Washington. I believe it is.
Jonte Cook from Texas, right? He just committed to Washington.
Yeah, he got dismissed from there. I guess I missed that. I must have missed that. I've also been hanging out with my
Twitter real quick if you want.
Been hanging out with my sister and my brother-in-law all week. That's why I've been out of the loop in terms of content and stuff like that. But I saw most of it, but I don't see the Jonte Cook unless that one was just reported. More flags in Chinese military grade. Sipple. He said Mike White said Sipple updated it like 10 minutes ago. Okay, so
Jonte Cook was dismissed. Yep.
Simple updated on Pete about 10-15 minutes ago. Okay, so I would trust that a little bit more because I mean On3 and these other big, like a lot of these big On3 guys and stuff like that, like they are off on so much crap now. Like post a lot of stuff for clicks and a lot of stuff to get their articles clicked on, but they are off on a lot of things. So I would trust it a little bit more if kind of Sean and Sip were in on that, but.
Still be about Sean too is he's not going to report until he's got
100%.
Yeah, that's why I do appreciate he doesn't speculate.
That's why I really wait on like one of those guys to touch it because they are two of the few people that actually wait till it's concrete and they know for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Let's see. Only 8 more months till Husker football. Oh my God. Don't remind me. Yeah, this is the longest.
It's a pretty depressing time of year, honestly.
It takes so long, bro. Oh my God.
Just think though, at least we have like this portal now. We have all the hype videos coming out in winter conditioning. These are the national champs again.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna be riding high until August, and then we'll see where we're at.
You got me to break it down with you all off season, and you got my friend over at the Cornhusker Huddle as well. Vincent Shavers, hey, appreciate you hopping in here, sir. Thank you so much for checking out the show. Hope you caught a little bit of it.
Vincent Shavers?
That's I think it's his dad. It's probably I think
dog.
His dad account. Yeah.
His dad liked one of my tweets on the bowl game when I said Vincent Shavers a dog.
Him and Dawson's dad like are two of like the most in terms of like interacting with the fan base and being engaged with content. Like I appreciate that a ton because they are locked in, you know, to that type of stuff. So makes it feel like, you know, more like a family vibe too when the parents are interacting with the fans and, you know, coaches and stuff like that too. So I appreciate you hopping in here, Vincent. All right. So anything else before we go to sign off? You want to tell people again where they can find you so they can go check out your YouTube channel. If y'all don't mind going, you know, he's a brand new YouTube channel. So I appreciate him coming on. If y'all want to go check out him at the Cornhusker Huddle, go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
Yep. Cornhusker Huddle on YouTube and on Twitter, just on Twitter or X. It's without the E because of the character limits. I do have a small little Facebook group as well. So it's Cornhusker Huddle Podcast on Facebook. So reach out there. I'm really active on Twitter. That's where I break like most of the news, like instant reaction stuff is going to be on Twitter.
Awesome. And I was trying to pull up your channel real quick so I could drop it in the chat. And then what you have coming up later this week?
I did a deep dive into Nebraska basketball's road problems. And I did a little analysis based on how they perform on the road compared to the home. It's just a deep dive on the disaster that is Big Red on the road. It's going to be quite fun to dive into. It'll be a little bit depressing, but
yeah. So if y'all want to see his sadness, go ahead and check that out. Y'all saw mine in all the post games this year, but anything else on that?
I think that's the only one I'm going to have for this week though. Because
awesome.
We're doing this one this week, the live, and then that one on Thursday it'll drop. I'll probably drop it sometime mid-afternoon, late afternoon on Thursday.
Yep. Okay, gotcha. Do we ever move back to the 4-3, or do we think Butler sticks 3-3-5? It's going to be a versatile front.
I wouldn't even call it 3-3-5.
Yeah, 3-3-5 is kind of a variation of like a 4-3 and a 4-2-5. Like it's kind of a hybrid of a couple things, anyways. But I think we're going to see, you know, he's more of an NFL style. I think we are going to see, you know, the 3-man fronts in there, but it's going to be a lot more 4-man fronts and 4 hands in the dirt, 4 down linemen than we saw with Tony White for sure. But it's going to be a very versatile defense. It's gonna have some of the same, you know, things that Tony White had in his. Not going to change up too terribly much, but he's going to put his spin on it. So you're going to see a lot more of that NFL style 4-man front, 4 down, hands in the dirt, and occasionally you'll see that 3-man front as well. So it's going to be more of a mixed bag, I think.
I think they're going to apply a lot more pressure with the linebackers too,
without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the bowl game and how much they were blitzing. I think it's going to be astonishing. It'll be a similar schematic wise, but it's going to be astonishing the differences of how they run.
They're going to play definitely more downhill for sure.
Oh yeah.
Cook was released due to multiple altercations and missed workouts. Jeez,
dude, you've been there for 3 weeks.
How did you got there, man? That's crazy.
Nebraska swoop in.
Yeah, hopefully not. I don't think they want. I mean, I'd take Jonte Cook's talent, but not if you got to deal with that. Cornhusker Huddle's the best. Hey, see, we already got a fan here of your stuff. So dropped it in the chat. So y'all go check it out over there. Go give him some subscribers and a lot of great stuff over there. Just wanted to get him on here and him be able to showcase kind of what he knows. So y'all can go check out his stuff and he's got some good stuff over there. We got some great Husker content creators. Just some of them we just got to get them a little bit more visibility so you can see what they're doing. So. Butler did a good job in his first game. He did an excellent job. Without a doubt, was a complete win. Needed that because we needed to, have portal guys see our defense on tape with the new defensive coordinator, and we got some good tape on the defense. So excited to see what Butler can do for sure.
Think of how big the narrative changes from 7-6 to 6-7.
Yep.
It's one game difference, but the narrative is okay, Nebraska is moving in the right direction.
It's huge. You're coming off and finishing that with a win. Yes, without a doubt. Not only that, the defensive staff, like every single move that they made on this defensive staff was incredible. Like they nailed it every single hire. And so
the DB coach, Addison, what's his name? Addison
Williams.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know his name, but look at his stats when he was the defensive pass game coordinator at UCI. Scott Frost wanted to keep him on staff.
Yeah, and
Nebraska pulled him away.
The only reason when he was the defensive coordinator, co-DC this year, the only reason he struggled is because he had a great season as the defensive coordinator the year prior, but they brought in a co-defensive coordinator to manage defense with him, who also got fired 7 weeks into the season. So his co-defensive coordinator got, so the one season that he struggled and didn't have a constant improvement or a high level defense was when for some reason they brought in when Malzahn brought in a co-defensive coordinator, which made no sense at all. So
yeah.
The show boy,
he's off to Florida State.
Throw the bones, Mr. Brightside. How much CRD line improving with Brad and BNRD?
It's going to improve a lot. The problem is your depth.
That's the thing. Yeah, he's with what he has. We're going to see. He's going to do great. That's the thing. He's going to be a great coach.
He's coming off of 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs. He's coached George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Frank Clark. He's coached some of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. He's going to potentially have a 3rd Super Bowl ring. And for me, as a Kansas City native who's a big Chiefs fan, can you imagine showing up to that recruiting room? You got 3 Super Bowl rings, and I coached the best defensive tackle in the NFL, and I coached George Karlaftis and Frank Clark. And he was a DB's coach before, so he coached L'Jarius Sneed. He coached Marcus Peters. He coached. I'm going to go on a Chiefs rant if you don't stop me, but he's an elite hire. I'm
a Texans fan, so we're only going to have negative Chief rant. No, I can't do that. We have too many Kansas City coaching ties on our staff for me to go after KC, but they are the opponents this weekend, so
we'll be friends till Saturday at 4:30 or 3:30.
Yeah, and listen. Texans are destined for Saturday 3:30 games. Not even the Chiefs could save us from that time slot. Okay.
Isn't Stroud undefeated or only lost 1 game? He's 7-1 in Saturday games. As a Texan,
I can't remember how many it is, but I think he's only lost 1. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
he's elite.
Every
the
single
downside for you is the head ref for the game is.
I'm not.
Chiefs are 6-0 when he refs.
I'm not happy about that at all. I saw that on Facebook earlier. But yeah, it's every single playoff game that the Texans have played has been Saturday 3:30 time slot. So yeah,
that's crazy.
Yep. I know every single divisional round at least, but I think every single game that we've played in the playoffs, sans maybe -1 has been at that time slot. And I thought there's one chance to get on prime time. It'll be when we play the Chiefs, but nope. We are
Rams.
We are must not see TV. All right. Apparently. So
did we talk about Deshaun Singleton coming back?
I haven't yet, but I was going to talk about that in a later episode. But you want to touch on it real quick before we head out?
I was just thinking it's a huge win. Just
Javen
another
Wright,
secondary guy. Yeah, and Javen Wright.
Right.
Two guys you weren't expecting back that are coming back.
Yep.
On who you're bringing in. I may want to make sure that if no one knew that, yes, Deshaun's very likely coming back.
Yep. I jumped on a new boxing team too I got a new coach, and one of his fighters, Jordan Gillis, actually knows Javen Wright pretty well. So I'm going to try to work on getting him on the show.
That would be awesome.
Whenever I can too. So that'll be fun to talk to him about that. So, and then having home field advantage makes it so much more tough. Yeah. Don't get me started. All right. I'm not going to listen. I'm going to go on a rant about.
It's supposed to be 0 degrees here this weekend, by the way.
Negative rant about Kansas City. All right, I don't want to hear it. Texans are playing house money right now. I just got to say that because with all the injuries we have, I didn't expect us to get past the first round. So at this point, it's like whatever happens, whatever. I'm good with it. Take on Crawford Canelo. Oh man, I'm a big Canelo guy. I love Crawford too, of course. Like those are two of my top 5 favorite fighters. I depends on
where they're fighting.
I think it's in Vegas. Depends on
that's what I thought.
Depends on where Crawford is, if he's lost a step in terms of his age. He's a little up there in age. I think Canelo is one of the best pure boxers there is, though. I think if Crawford can, really mix it up with his switching stances like he normally does, give after his jab very well, and I think he's just going to have to be very strategic with Canelo and try to do kind of what Duvall did to Canelo, and that's just kind of, put him on his back foot, not let him get his offense going. And Crawford's got to take his rhythm away from him. So, man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because I like both guys so much. I think like the Husker fandom in me wants me to side with Crawford a little bit more. But again, I think that fight comes down to how much of a step, if any, has he lost? Just because at what point does that decline start for Crawford? Because he's up there in age. I think he's 37 now. So it'll be interesting. But I think Canelo at this weight class is tough to beat. He went up and had some struggles against, a couple weight classes up, but I think at this weight class it's going to be a little tough. But I don't know. My heart wants to say Crawford. So, you know what? I'll go with Crawford now. And then when I break it down in more detail, I'll let y'all know. I'm not high on Singleton. He regressed. He had his tackling struggles, but
yeah, and
in terms of,
he was hurt. In
terms of experience and, being a guy who knows this, defense, knows the team, and is a leader, he will help in a lot of ways, but does need to get better with his tackling. Absolutely. He'll be at 168, so that will hurt Crawford. Yeah. That's tough, man. That's going to be a tough fight for Crawford. But I'm just going to, right now, I'm going to give y'all Crawford. All right. I'm going to sit here and analyze this to death. And my poor buddy over here won't ever get off the show if I do that. Got to roll with Crawford because I'm from Omaha. 3 weight class is a big jump. It is, because when Canelo went up 2 weight classes, he struggled. Like his power didn't translate all the way up to those 2 weight classes. So, yeah, I like my head likes Canelo. My heart likes Crawford. So I'll just tell you all that. But all right, Brian. Like I said, I dropped the link to his channel in the chat. So if y'all want to go check out, subscribe to his channel, y'all go do that. Please go subscribe over there and, start checking out his content. I want him to get, some more traction over there so he can start getting into more people's feed and stuff like that. What's going on, Pitts Night? Appreciate you hopping in here a little late, but you're in here nonetheless. So, other than that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Like I said, this last week and a half has been hectic. I've been lining up, I'm starting personal training part-time again. So I've been lining that stuff up. My sister was in town for this weekend last week or so. And then also we have a fighter in our camp that was getting ready to fight in Manchester. So been working in camp with getting him ready for the fight and stuff like that, but he flew out yesterday for that. So, I'm back ready to roll in the content. So I'll be having stuff coming up for y'all all week. And my live streams, of course, every Tuesday, as y'all know. Yeah, Pit Snipe, you can go back and watch it. And a lot of fun stuff in here. So comment, let me know what you think afterwards. So, all right. Like I said, is there anything else, Brian, that you wanted to tell the people or anything else that you want to do before we head off?
No, we're good, I think. Just check out my channel on YouTube. I'm on Spotify as well and Twitter. And
yep,
enjoy it.
Cool. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
hopping on here, taking the time to be on with me. And yeah, so that being said, everybody, y'all get ready for the content coming up this week. Got a lot of fun stuff for y'all. So with that being said, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.